In 2022, the marketing team for the luxury fashion brand Balenciaga was tasked with creating a campaign around the new Cagole line of handbags. To introduce and sell the nostalgic design, the team devised a completely unique way for customers to be able to shop for the bag. So from April to June of 2022, Balenciaga wrapped their stores and retail kiosks floor to ceiling in luscious, shaggy, pink faux fur. In marketing and retail terms, this approach is being called HyperPhysical Retail. And in this video, I want to peek behind the shaggy pink fur to uncover what's really going on here to map out the larger cultural forces at play. It's not just Balenciaga that have been getting hyper-physical recently. Just look at this enormous bathroom and locker room by Jacquemus for selling a series of blue handbags. It's become a new standard for luxury fashion brands, if you can call this standard. We're in a strange liminal period where global brands are trying to figure out what to do with their brick and mortar locations. Online shopping makes those redundant for just the act of purchasing, but that doesn't mean that those physical spaces can't play some other role for the company or the customer. The idea of hyper-physical retail is to ratchet up other aspects of the shopping experience. The goal is to generate pleasant bodily sensations and thus memories that you will attribute to the space and therefore the brand that created it. Themed designs with bold colors, intense sounds, textures, and smells punctuate spaces that might just seem tangentially related to selling the product, but that's by design. Instead, the intensely heightened sensations and the psychological nourishment rewards customers for just being present. Meanwhile, you might engage in all sorts of activities from lounging and exploring and interacting with various elements to socializing with friends. These secondary activities, along with the instant gratification and personalized customer service, these just can't be replicated with online shopping yet. But unlike traditional retail, these hyper-physical versions are mostly temporary installations that just last a few days or weeks or months. It's awfully hard to keep shaggy faux fur looking cute when everyone's just traipsing all over it all the time. The fabulous makeover is designed and constructed with this compressed lifespan in mind. So they borrow expedient techniques of theater construction rather than traditional architecture or interior design, which is meant to last for a longer period. The narrow window for visiting the event also increases the fear of missing out and offers reasons for people to keep coming back when the new version opens. And in this sense, hyper-physical retail, I think it can be lumped with other phenomena like branded pop-ups and experience museums. All these experience economy institutions, they provide real-world experiences that we're missing in our increasingly digital world.
Welcome to a place where you will have an out-of-this-world immersive experience.
But things are pretty awkward right now. I mean, one of the world's most expensive luxury brands is decorating its stores like a children's television show set. I'm not even trying to be harsh. I actually think that that's the goal. Fundamentally, what these retailers are recognizing is that people are craving spaces that work like children's museums or set designs for children's shows. And I think there's something really specific going on here. Products like purses, they're not sold by persuading customers with how well they perform for carrying personal items with you. The decision doesn't come down to marginal variations in use value. Instead, it's like there's a minimum threshold of performance that's required, but then after that, the factors that nudge someone toward buying one purse over another purse, it relies on something else. This condition was actually studied by Sigmund Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, who combined knowledge from the fields of social sciences and psychology and marketing to develop methods for manipulating the public. And what he identified is that customers, they're not just buying a purse. What they're buying is the lifestyle and the identity that the bag stands for. But those two things are separate, the bag and the lifestyle. So to successfully market an item like this, you need to cement that connection between the bag and the lifestyle inside of the customer's mind. This is done through a technique called atmospheric advertising, which operates through imagery and fantasy and suggestion. This bag is unique from all the others, and if you have it, you will attain this aspirational persona or lifestyle. The physical retail space itself is a critical player in forming this connection in the customer's minds. The space and its design is like a scaffolding that surrounds the products that are on display. The scaffolding helps construct the world of associations that are swirling around the merchandise itself. Balenciaga realized this when they were working on the Furry Pink Store campaign. Even the name of the bags are doing this work that's associating the purse to a human stereotype. The name is actually a French term for a young woman with a particular type of style and personality. She's cool and self-confident and extroverted, but is sometimes a bit overly dramatic and maybe a little attention-seeking. The store then is a bit of theater that helps you, the customer, transform into a Cagole, or however you pronounce it. This idea saturates these stores so fully that the very act of shopping becomes part of the theater. The customer for these 2000s style retro bags, they're likely pretty nostalgic for their memories of shopping. After all, the early 2000s was the last gasp of retail shopping's popularity. And today about 60% of people say that they go shopping, but just for the fun of the experience alone. The main location for the furry pink makeover, it was in an area of London known as Mayfair, at Balenciaga's Mount Street store. The interior wrapper was visible through 2 large windows of the first floor of the facade, and the brightly lit interior was on full display to everyone that'd be walking down the street. This isn't always how normal retail architecture works. Many stores actually try to eliminate as many connections to the outside as possible. Fewer doors to pass through and fewer windows to look through means that customers stay longer and they purchase more. Even seeing the outside reminds customers that they have a real life, and it spoils their ability to suspend judgment for a while. Instead, the windows are blocked off with a shallow cubby space for curated displays that face the street. Window displays attract your attention, but also block the view inside. The store itself is mysterious and only revealed once you enter inside. The door is like a portal between 2 very different worlds. And creating this strong distinction between the inside world and the outside world results in a predictable set of behaviors as the people enter and pass through that threshold. These have been studied by anthropologists who compiled them in a sort of guidebook for designers to be able to turn this natural human behavior into higher sales. For instance, people enter a store at walking speed from the sidewalk, and it takes time for them to acclimate to the environment of the store. This transition from walking speed to what they call shopping speed is called the downshift factor, and it occurs in the first 5 to 15 steps into a store. The first move after downshifting, it's predictable too. Everyone walks in and then turns right. They call this the law of the invariant right. So the most valuable merchandise should be located where this will happen, and nothing important should go between the front door and that zone where people are doing the downshifting. But this installation, it turns the entire store into something that's effectively like an enlarged window display. The entirety of the store and the people in it are visible from the street, and the people in the street remain visible from inside. This dissolves the usual separation between the inside and outside worlds, and the customers and the public are free to watch one another. And of course, a Cagole is someone that just enjoys being the center of attention. The window display is traditionally a place for creating rich, interactive narratives that engage customers out on the street at a deeper emotional level that fosters brand connection and loyalty to the brand. A lot of our techniques now about display design actually came from a man named Frank Baum. In 1900, he published a book called The Art of Decorating Dry Goods, Windows, and Interiors. But you might recognize him from another book that he published that same year, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. In his lesser-known tome, he provided a comprehensive guide for window decorators, offering practical advice, technical details, and creative ideas for creating attractive and effective window displays. In The Wizard of Oz, he also created a colorful world with a set of characters that receive an object in the end that fills a hole in their psyche, and it allows them to become fully fleshed out personalities. Sound familiar? This breakdown between the public and retail space has been occurring in various forms for decades, if not centuries, but it seems particularly difficult nowadays to be able to distinguish the two. Traditionally, stores might put merchandise for sale out on the sidewalk, or shopping malls became the de facto public spaces of the suburbs. And retail is often infiltrated public institutions like airports and train stations, even schools or museums, and even hospitals. But where Balenciaga was operating specifically is almost the epicenter of this phenomenon. It's right near where Louis Vuitton opened the very first international luxury brand store in 1885. They were followed by Cartier, and today Mayfair is home to the highest density of haute couture stores in the world. The inside of each flagship store in this area reinforces each brand's message by controlling the interior aspects of the entire customer experience. As a collective, though, they form an entire urban shopping district that draws people from around the world. Madison Avenue, Champs-Élysées, Rodeo Drive, and even Chicago's Magnificent Mile, they all follow this exact same formula. And in this arrangement, the brands and the cities, they kind of feed off of one another. The city gets a zone that's endowed with a sense of place, where visitors create memories through their thrilling and luscious shopping experiences. On the other side, the city and its sophisticated heritage becomes part of the brand's personality and the lifestyle that it stands for. The Balenciaga Paris tote bag, it sells for $1,350. Balenciaga wasn't even started in Paris, it started in Spain. This infiltration and collapse of public space and retail is also true of digital spaces online. Services like search engines, which seem like a bedrock of the online environment, are saturated with retail and data gathering for targeting customers. Social spaces online too, like Instagram and Facebook, directly engage you in retail activities. In all facets of life, it's very difficult to distinguish truly public spaces from the ones that are trying to sell you a promising lifestyle. And the fact that we gravitate and actually enjoy this collapse, I think it says something about us. I believe that many of us are either comforted or motivated to socialize in public forums when it's possible for us to test or try on different identities or different personas or characters. And if you think about it, that's exactly what the Metaverse offers. It's a common space within which people can easily become whoever they want. The Metaverse is powered by retail too, just like the public spaces in our physical world. Retail is at the forefront of phygital space, this collapse between the physical and the digital. The digital interactive elements of a hyperphysical space might encourage you to engage and immerse yourself even further into the constructed world. At the same time, the brands are able to use this technology to track customers, to tailor their experience, or gather data that can be useful for future campaigns. Either way, they're able to provide a more personalized experience tailored specifically for you as you try on new and exciting personas like a Cagole. All the while, they're invading your privacy at a very deep and fundamental level. There's a ton of problems in all of this, yet I don't think that this is going to be changing or go away anytime soon. Part of me, as someone who just loves architecture and cities, I just worry about how this kind of thing might change how we think about the built environment overall for the worst. If people don't think the physical world, they don't think it matters anymore, will it just be whatever and just be awaiting activation like a Star Trek holodeck? The hyperphysical approach, it kind of seems like the opposite. It revels in what materials and space can do, and it allows a digital component to provide things that the physical can't. The two work together to provide something that is hopefully greater than the sum of their parts. The simplified but intensified and slightly unfamiliar interpretations of the world that these kinds of spaces offer, they help us to connect with the environment, but they also help us form new stories in our minds about how and why things are or got the way they are. They prompt us to explore the world and explore ourselves. Like Oz, the hyperphysical space and the world that it's creating works according to some new paradigm, and we're free to remake ourselves inside of this space. And that's the way that this works, like a children's museum or a set for a children's show. The question that continually comes up in spaces like this, though, for me, is it you that's exploring this pink, furry retail space? Or is it a hyper self-conscious version of you that's enabled and dictated by the environment's specific terms for proper engagement? Are you free to be who you are, or in this post-fake, authentic, phygital environment is the only option to be whomever the retailers want you to be? With physical and digital spaces collapsing like this, you and your digital footprint, they're exposed wherever you go. Sure, companies are gathering information about you with every transaction, but the real problem is that they aren't just keeping that information to themselves. Instead, it's passed around, compiled, and sold by entities that are called data brokers. Recently, I discovered just how easy it was for these data brokers to get their hands on our private data and to sell it without consent. It was a real wake-up call for me. I found my own information on several of those people search websites. They had my home address, they even had details about my family. It was a scary reminder that we have such little control over our own privacy. It is possible to get this stuff removed, but if you've ever tried any of that, it takes a ton of time and effort to be able to find the right people to contact and then having to send them letters demanding it to be taken down. But there is an easier and a cheaper way that I've found. That's using Incogni. Incogni takes on the heavy lifting of removing your personal data from these databases. They reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and ensure that your information is deleted. What I love most is that they continue to monitor it and remove any data that appears, so you're protected in the long term. The process couldn't have been easier. I signed up, and within days, I started seeing the results. Less spam, fewer unwanted calls, and a lot more peace of mind. They even show you which brokers have, or I should say had, your information. So if you're tired of feeling like your personal data is out of your hands, I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. It's a game changer for me, and I genuinely believe that it can be for you too. And that's why I'm thankful to partner with them so that you can find the same peace of mind by using code StewartHicks at the link below for an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Protect your privacy and regain control over your personal information. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.